Rachel was 32 years old and had been working at the same hotel for 8 years. Nobody knew her past until that night when the world's most wanted criminal walked through her door and her true identity was revealed. Welcome to Hidden Legends. Before we begin this intense story of hidden identity and international justice, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from today. And if stories like this deserve to be told, hit that subscribe button. Rachel Morrison checked her watch as she straightened the guest registry at the front desk of the Grand Harbor Hotel. 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night in downtown Seattle. The late shift was usually quiet, just the occasional business traveler checking in, and the regular sounds of a hotel settling into evening routine. At 32, Rachel had perfected the art of being unremarkable. Her brown hair was always neatly pulled back, her smile was professional but warm, and her navy blazer with the hotel logo gave her the appearance of someone who'd found her place in the hospitality industry. For 8 years, she'd been the night desk manager that guests could count on. Efficient, helpful, forgettable. "Good evening, Mr. Patterson," she said to the elderly gentleman approaching the front desk. He was a regular, staying 2 nights every month for business meetings downtown. "Evening, Rachel. The usual room, if you have it available." "Of course. Room 847, just as you prefer. How was your flight from Portland?" It was this attention to detail that made Rachel exceptional at her job. She remembered every guest's preferences, their stories, their routines. What nobody knew was that this skill had been honed through years of training that had nothing to do with hotel management. As Mr. Patterson headed to the elevators, Rachel returned to her computer screen. She was updating the guest manifest when something caught her attention, a late booking that had just come through the system. A single night reservation under the name David Walsh, arriving within the hour. The name meant nothing to most people, but Rachel's pulse quickened slightly as she recognized it from a list she'd memorized years ago. Not the real name, of course, but one of several aliases used by someone the international community had been hunting for over a decade. She looked around the quiet lobby, then discreetly pulled up a secure browser window on her computer. Within minutes, she'd confirmed her suspicion. David Walsh was one of 12 known identities used by Viktor Kozlov, a Serbian war criminal responsible for ethnic cleansing operations in Bosnia during the 1990s. For the first time in 8 years, Rachel Morrison, hotel night manager, was about to disappear. And Agent Rachel Morrison, Interpol, was coming out of deep cover. At 12:23 a.m., a black sedan pulled up to the hotel's main entrance. Rachel watched through the floor-to-ceiling windows as a man in his late 50s emerged from the vehicle. Average height, graying hair, expensive but unremarkable clothing. To any observer, he looked like another business traveler. But Rachel saw details others would miss: the way he scanned the street before entering, the slight bulge under his left shoulder indicating a concealed weapon, the practiced casualness that came from years of evading law enforcement. Viktor Kozlov walked through the front doors of the Grand Harbor Hotel and approached her desk. "Good evening," Rachel said with her practiced hotel smile. "How can I help you?" "I have a reservation, David Walsh." His English was perfect, with just the faintest trace of an accent that most people wouldn't place. Rachel's trained ear identified it immediately: Serbian, carefully modulated through years of living in various countries. "Of course, Mr. Walsh. Welcome to the Grand Harbor Hotel. I just need to see some identification and a credit card." He handed over a Canadian passport and matching credit card. The documents were flawless, professional-grade forgeries that would fool any standard security check. But Rachel noticed the slight wear pattern on the passport that indicated recent creation, and the credit card's magnetic strip looked too pristine for someone who claimed to travel frequently for business. "Thank you, Mr. Walsh. You're staying with us for 1 night in our executive suite on the 14th floor. Will you need assistance with luggage?" "No, thank you. I prefer to handle my own belongings." Of course he did. War criminals didn't trust hotel staff with bags that might contain evidence of their activities. "Excellent. Here's your key card. The elevators are just around the corner, and room service is available until 2 a.m. if you need anything." Viktor Kozlov took his key card and headed toward the elevators. Rachel waited until she heard the elevator doors close, then immediately activated protocols she hadn't used in 8 years. She pulled out a secure phone from a hidden compartment in her desk and dialed a number she'd memorized but never called. "Control, this is Nightingale. I have a priority target in position." The voice on the other end of the secure line was calm but alert. "Nightingale, confirm identity and location." Viktor Kozlov, using alias David Walsh, checked into Grand Harbor Hotel Seattle at 0023 hours, staying in room 1447. He's armed and alone. Understood. Nightingale, you've been deep cover for 8 years. Are you certain about target identification? Rachel looked at the hotel's security monitor showing the 14th floor hallway. Kozlov was entering his room, and for just a moment, his face was perfectly visible to the camera. Even with 8 years of aging and cosmetic changes, she was absolutely certain. Positive identification confirmed. Target is Viktor Kozlov, wanted for war crimes including the massacre at Srebrenica and ethnic cleansing operations throughout Bosnia. International warrant issued 2011. Nightingale, maintain position and observe. Federal response team is en route. ETA 90 minutes. Rachel hung up the secure phone and returned it to its hidden compartment. For 8 years, she'd worked the night shift at this hotel, maintaining her cover identity while monitoring communications and travel patterns that might indicate high-value targets passing through Seattle. Tonight, her patience had finally paid off, but 90 minutes was a long time to maintain normal operations while keeping a war criminal under surveillance. Rachel began making subtle preparations, ensuring all guest floors except the 14th were secure, positioning herself with clear sight lines to both the elevators and emergency exits, and discreetly activating the hotel's enhanced security protocols that few staff members even knew existed. Viktor Kozlov had chosen this hotel because it appeared to be exactly what it claimed, a mid-range business hotel with standard security and no apparent law enforcement connections. What he didn't know was that the Grand Harbor Hotel had been an Interpol surveillance station for the past decade, and Rachel Morrison was one of their most experienced field agents. At 1:15 a.m., Rachel's carefully laid plans encountered an unexpected problem. The hotel's front doors opened, and 3 men entered who definitely weren't late-arriving business travelers. They moved with the coordination of a professional team, wearing dark clothing and carrying briefcases that were likely filled with more than business documents. The leader approached Rachel's desk, while the other 2 positioned themselves near the elevators and emergency exit. "Good evening," the leader said in accented English. "We're here to visit a guest, David Walsh, room 1447. Rachel's training kicked in immediately. These men were part of Kozlov's security team, probably arriving for an early morning departure. Their presence complicated everything. A federal raid would now potentially face armed resistance from multiple targets. "I'm sorry, sir, but it's hotel policy not to disturb guests after midnight unless there's an emergency. If you'd like to call Mr. Walsh's room, I can connect you." "That won't be necessary. He's expecting us." The leader reached into his jacket and Rachel tensed, but instead of a weapon, he produced a key card, an exact duplicate of the one she'd given Kozlov earlier. "As you can see, we have access. We'll show ourselves up." This was a problem. Multiple armed individuals were now in the hotel, and the federal response team wasn't due for another hour. Rachel had to make a decision that would either maintain her cover and potentially lose the target or take action and blow 8 years of careful positioning. She watched the 3 men enter the elevator and made her choice. Rachel Morrison, hotel night manager, was about to have a very bad evening, but Agent Rachel Morrison, Interpol, was going to complete her mission. The moment the elevator doors closed, Rachel activated the hotel's lockdown system, a feature that appeared to be standard security but was actually designed for exactly this situation. All guest room doors locked automatically, the elevators required key card authorization for movement between floors, and silent alarms were triggered at both local police and federal agencies. She then pulled out her secondary secure phone and speed-dialed her backup contact. "This is Nightingale. Situation has escalated. Target plus 3 additional hostiles now in play. requesting immediate tactical support. Nightingale, maintain position. SWAT deployment accelerated. ETA 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Rachel looked at the hotel's security monitors showing the 14th floor. The three men had reached Kozlov's room and were entering. Whatever they were planning, it was happening tonight, and she was the only thing standing between them and their escape. Rachel made another call, this one to the hotel's security chief, who was also not what he appeared to be. "Marcus, it's Rachel. We have a code black situation. 4 hostiles on 14. Federal response in 30 minutes. Roger, I'm in the building. Roof access secured. All exits covered. What's your status?" "Maintaining front desk position. Target is Viktor Kozlov, wanted international. This is the operation we've been waiting for." "Understood. Nightingale, you've got backup." For 8 years, Rachel and Marcus had worked their regular hotel jobs while maintaining one of Interpol's most successful long-term surveillance operations. Tonight, their patience was going to be tested in ways they'd trained for, but hoped never to experience. Rachel checked her watch. 1:35 a.m. Whatever Kozlov and his team were planning, she had less than 30 minutes to ensure they didn't leave the hotel. At 1:42 a.m., Rachel's secure line rang. The caller ID showed it was coming from room 1447. "Grand Harbor Hotel, this is Rachel. How can I help you?" "Ms. Morrison." The voice was Viktor Kozlov's, but now it carried a tone she hadn't heard earlier. Or should I say, Agent Morrison? Rachel's blood went cold. Her cover had been blown. "I'm sorry, sir. I don't understand. Is there something wrong with your room?" "Please, Agent Morrison. After 8 years of excellent service to this hotel and to Interpol, I think we can dispense with the pretense." Rachel remained silent, but her mind was racing. How had he identified her? Her cover identity was perfect, built over years and maintained flawlessly. "You're wondering how I know," Kozlov continued. "It's simple. I've been watching you watch me for the past hour. The way you positioned yourself at the desk, the discreet phone calls, the subtle activation of security protocols that don't exist in normal hotels. You're very good, Agent Morrison, but I've been evading capture for 12 years. I recognize operational patterns." "What do you want?" "Ah, there's the real Rachel Morrison. What I want is safe passage out of this hotel. In exchange, I'll provide information about 3 other individuals on Interpol's most wanted list who are currently operating in North America." "That's not how this works." "Actually, Agent Morrison, tonight it is. You see, my associates and I came here for a specific purpose. We've retrieved what we came for, and now we're leaving. The question is whether we do this quietly, or whether this becomes an international incident involving multiple casualties." Rachel looked at the security monitors. She could see movement in room 1447, but the camera angles didn't show exactly what they were doing. "What did you retrieve?" "Let's just say that certain documents relating to wartime activities were being held by someone who was blackmailing the wrong people. Those documents are now in their proper hands. The federal authorities will be here in 20 minutes. "Yes, I'm sure they will. Which is why we'll be leaving in 15 minutes. Agent Morrison, I'm offering you a deal. Let us walk out of here peacefully, and 3 other war criminals will be in custody within a week. Try to stop us, and tonight becomes a bloodbath that ends with us disappearing anyway." Rachel had to make a choice that would define her 8-year operation. Rachel looked around the quiet hotel lobby. In 15 minutes, this place would either be the site of a successful capture operation or a violent confrontation that could result in civilian casualties. She thought about the regular guests sleeping peacefully on floors 2 through 13, unaware that international fugitives were moving through their hotel. "Kozlov, I need something more than your word." "Of course, I'm sending you digital files right now. Photographs, locations, and operational details for Ratko Mladic's financial network, Goran Jelisic's current identity in Toronto, and the location of Radovan Karadzic's hidden assets. Consider it a gesture of good faith." Rachel's secure phone chimed with incoming encrypted files. She quickly scanned them. If authentic, this information would lead to the capture of 3 individuals who had been evading justice for years. This could all be fabricated. Agent Morrison, I've been a war criminal for 12 years, but I'm not a liar when it comes to business. These files are genuine. In fact, they're more valuable than my capture would be. Rachel made her decision based on 8 years of training and the tactical reality of the situation. 4 armed men versus a single agent, with civilian safety at stake and valuable intelligence being offered in exchange for temporary freedom. I need 10 minutes to verify this information. You have 5 minutes, Agent Morrison. Then we're leaving whether you approve or not. Rachel immediately forwarded the files to her Interpol contact for rapid authentication. While waiting for confirmation, she watched the security monitors and prepared for the possibility that this negotiation would fail. At 1:52 a.m., her secure phone buzzed with a response. Files authenticated. Intelligence value, extremely high. Authorization granted for tactical negotiation. Kozlov, the deal is acceptable, but I need your word that no hotel staff or guests will be harmed. You have it. We're professionals, Agent Morrison, not terrorists. How do you want to handle the exit? My associates and I will leave through the service entrance in 10 minutes. Your federal response team will find an empty room and no evidence of our presence. In return, the intelligence files I've provided will lead to 3 major captures within 2 weeks. Rachel knew she was making a deal with a war criminal, but she was also potentially trading one target for 3 others. It was the kind of calculated decision that field agents were trained to make. Understood. The service corridor will be clear for exactly 5 minutes starting at 2:05 a.m. Thank you, Agent Morrison, and congratulations on 8 years of exceptional deep cover work. I hope we never meet again. At 2:15 a.m., the federal response team arrived at the Grand Harbor Hotel. They found an empty room 1447 with no trace of recent occupation and a night desk manager who provided them with detailed files on 3 other international fugitives. Rachel submitted her report to Interpol at 4:30 a.m. Target escaped, but intelligence gained resulted in identification of 3 additional high-value targets. Operation Nightingale maintains cover status for potential future deployments. The decision she'd made that night was debated in Interpol headquarters for weeks. Some argued that letting Kozlov escape was a failure of protocol. Others pointed out that the intelligence he provided led to the capture of individuals who had been successfully hiding for years. 3 weeks later, Rachel received confirmation that all 3 targets identified in Kozlov's files had been apprehended. Her tactical decision to trade one criminal for 3 others was ultimately vindicated. But the Grand Harbor Hotel's night shift was never quite the same. 6 months later, Rachel was still working the front desk at the Grand Harbor Hotel. To the outside world, nothing had changed. She checked in guests, handled late-night requests, and maintained the professional demeanor that had made her successful for 8 years. But now her managers knew exactly who she was. The hotel's owner had been briefed about the facility's true purpose, and additional security measures had been implemented to support future operations. "Good evening, Ms. Morrison," said a guest approaching the front desk at 11:30 p.m. "I have a reservation under Thompson." Rachel looked at the man carefully. Mid-40s, well-dressed, carrying himself with the confidence of someone accustomed to international travel. The name Thompson was clean in all databases, but something about his demeanor triggered her professional instincts. "Of course, Mr. Thompson. Welcome to the Grand Harbor Hotel. I'll just need to see some identification." As she processed his check-in, Rachel made subtle observations. His passport showed extensive recent travel through Eastern Europe. His credit card was legitimate, but relatively new. His mannerisms suggested military or intelligence background. "You're staying with us for 3 nights in our executive suite. Will you need assistance with luggage?" "No, thank you. I prefer to handle my own bags." After Mr. Thompson headed to his room, Rachel made a discreet inquiry through Interpol databases. No matches for wanted individuals, but several flags for possible intelligence operative traveling undercover. This time, she decided to simply monitor rather than investigate. Not every suspicious guest was a war criminal, and sometimes the best intelligence came from patient observation rather than immediate action. But Rachel Morrison, hotel night manager, was ready if the situation required Agent Morrison, Interpol, to make another appearance. 1 year after the Viktor Kozlov incident, Rachel received a secure message through her Interpol communication system. It was from the War Crimes Tribunal in The Hague. Agent Morrison, information provided through your operational decision has resulted in the successful prosecution of 3 major war criminals. Your tactical judgment in balancing immediate capture against larger intelligence gains has been noted as exemplary fieldcraft. Well done! The message was signed by the chief prosecutor, who rarely sent personal commendations to field agents. Rachel printed the message and placed it in her personal files. It would never be displayed or mentioned to anyone, but it represented validation of one of the most difficult decisions she had ever made as an agent. That same week, she received another piece of news. Viktor Kozlov had been found dead in Montenegro, apparently killed by associates who believed he had become a liability. The war criminal who had escaped from her hotel would never face trial, but his death had eliminated a threat that had evaded justice for over a decade. Rachel continued working the night shift at the Grand Harbor Hotel. She checked in business travelers, assisted late-arriving guests, and maintained the cover identity that had served her and Interpol for nearly 9 years. But sometimes, when particularly observant guests asked why she seemed more alert than a typical hotel employee, Rachel would smile and say, "You never know who might walk through those doors. It pays to stay aware." Most guests assumed she was talking about difficult customers or potential security issues. They had no idea she was referring to international fugitives, intelligence operatives, and the ongoing mission to bring justice to those who thought they could hide in plain sight. Agent Rachel Morrison remained on duty, one quiet night shift at a time. This story was brought to you by Hidden Legends. If you know someone whose service continues in unexpected ways, share their story in the comments and subscribe to honor those who protect justice even when nobody knows they're watching.